Oh yeah, right, microphone mute as always. Just always forget about that shit. Anyways, what the hell is downloading? Should I restart? What's happening? What do you mean? Quick play, stop this nonsense. Yeah, that's, you know, that's me. That's me. But in any case. Synthesis, thank you for the follow. Okay, so I didn't want to restart the game. It won't let me back in 100%. But at the same time, whenever the game says it's downloading something in the background, yeah, nice. It usually means it will never start. Come on. Okay. Let's see if restarting this shit works. 100% I will not be able to log in again, ever. So, thank you guys for joining today's stream. We enjoyed it, really? Oh my freaking god, security key.
It's just... Oh
my god, it's just...
6.0 переводе.
Yeah, I agree. So. Obi Charlie, thank you. Thank you for subbing. I love you too. Okay, it's initializing. Initialize right now. But so far nothing's happening. Maybe I should not have closed the game after all. But then again, nothing was working anyway, so it's not like says it's now live. Is it though? Okay. I've restarted. Yes, of course. I am that daily PvP. I've changed a little bit, but not so much, you know. I should still be recognizable. But at the same time, you know, it's okay if I'm not. Just means that I could... and I will never be caught for all the mischief I caused back in the day. It's just... can't even recognize me. Okay, let's go! It's working, kinda. Woohoo! It's on, baby. I've gained weight here. What can I say? That is true. Alright, so, at first glance, I don't feel like I'm in a new expansion. Alliance, Hearts and Minds. Meet your alliance leaders. It's a new quest, right? Where would it be? There are mission controls here. Anything here? No. So, let's go to Odessen and meet my alliance leaders. Oh, that's probably the quest from the end of like the preceding story, right? Okay, whatever. Well, anyways, it's official. 6.0 is now on. Not entirely sure as to all the content that's been added. I know there are like 2 planets, 1 flashpoint, 1 operation, a lot of grind, and that's about it, right? Thank you, man, and it's no less nice to see you too. A lot of people logging on. Where do I meet my alliance leaders? To proceed with the story quests. In the meantime, alright, you can join ranked. You can join unranked, Galactic Starfighter. At first glance, there's really nothing new. No visible interface changes or anything. like, I have not really participated in PTS. So I don't really know a lot of stuff. Everything will be new to me. I am so not excited. Some naked girl was hurrying up to this meeting.
All right.
And I mean, I don't mind.
We've got just about everyone. How are we doing?
Internal security remains solid. I've caught 2 Republic spies since Osis. Both were disguised as cargo pilots seeking work. Unfortunately, they fled before they could be caught and interrogated.
What we gotta
about their
do.
specific objectives.
Stop the music and immerse ourselves in this story. How the hell did Dr. Ogrob Hutt even fit through that doorway we just passed? Well, I suspect there are more.
Stop looking just because you found a few spies. Being discovered might have been their mission all along.
Decoys to make us feel like we've won. It's certainly possible. I'll double our efforts.
My assets have brought in
That
solid intel from
must have sounded smart
along the front lines. I'll keep forwarding
in the writer's head, but that was funny.
My people are using that intel to create new write-ups for the major field commanders on both sides. Should help us predict strategic probabilities going forward. Until we get a specific request for aid, I've deployed our fleet in a defensive posture around Odessen. There's, one other matter we should discuss now that you're aligned with the Empire again.
We've run out of beer.
I'm proud to have worked under your command. We've made the galaxy a better place. But I'm also proud of my past. I served the Republic for years. I can't fight them, so I'm retiring. I've recommended a replacement, Commodore Pardax. Ex-Imperial, very sharp, she'll serve you well. Lana's already vetted her, and I'll stick around long enough to get her up to speed.
What did Lana do to the Commodore Pardax, who is going to serve me well? I wonder, Lana, what exactly did you do to her? I was supposed to, pop the cherry. It was not supposed to be you. Anyways, I didn't trust you.
Lana, I want security posted at all times to keep him from revealing his secrets to his Republic friends.
As you wish.
I don't trust you. You look like a cat. You think you were my ally? Not for a second. I know you're disappointed, but we live in harsh times. Harsh times. Doctor, I still don't understand how the hell did you fit yourself in this room?
Movements to Odessen's planetary shields have been successfully completed.
All right. Hilo?
We've had to step up security for my crews. Piracy is becoming a bigger problem on their runs. Lucky for us, you're friends with Mandalore. Now that word's spread that her people are riding along, nobody messes with our transports.
Good to hear. Anything else?
Sana Ray is touring the reconstruction efforts on Voss, so I believe we're finished.
But are we?
That's all I have. Good work, everyone.
I'm sorry, but Bounty Hunter just does not strike me.
Lord Izar, a representative of the Imperial Outreach Division, has asked to speak with you. I've loaded his frequency into your holocom.
Thank you. I wonder how hard it is to load a frequency into a
I have to admit, it's weird fighting against the Republic.
holocom.
Probably should have seen a day like this coming. Somehow I just never did. I get it. They've never once had your back over the years. Suresh brought out the worst in them. Even so, I need to know you're in this to win a war, not to crush my old home into dust.
What are these responses? Of course. Trust my judgment.
Followed me this far. Don't give all that up now.
I guess you're right. In all these years, you've never led me wrong. I'm glad we could talk. I'll catch you later.
Okay, that was sudden. I mean, I've just finished Ossus. And suddenly it's official. No more alliance. Kind of. Well, there's still alliance. I am lazy, but, we have to play one side now. Oh, wait a second, I needed to do something with those frequencies that were so diligently loaded into my holocom. Now, Alliance Commander does not choose an easy way around the table.
Greetings, Commander. So good of you to contact me.
How can I help you exactly?
I serve within the Imperial Outreach Division. Specifically, I seek out opportunities to inspire greatness among our noble frontline soldiers. Darth Krovos is giving a speech to our forces gathered at Viken Space Dock in preparation for their deployment. This could be an opportunity to say a few words of your own. Your actions have made you a living legend, after all. Certainty of victory inspires confidence. Hearing that you are out there fighting the same fight they are will undoubtedly instill that confidence in our troops.
Such is the fate of a renowned and accomplished man to give speeches. And I can see this meeting room is very popular. People just can't wait for me to step outside. They keep running in. Okay, keep it short, really.
Better be fast.
Oh, even a handful of words from a decorated hero such as yourself will carry great weight. We shall await your arrival with bated breath. Safe travels.
NRO2, did you set up this speech to the troops on Viken Space Dock?
No, but Lord Izar is correct in his assessment. This is an excellent opportunity to inspire confidence in the Empire's troops.
Do I need...
Inspired troops are capable of...
Where did that even come from? Which is...
80% above baseline. Speak well and victory will follow.
Maybe I missed something after Ossus. Is there any more storyline after Ossus? I finished Ossus. Darth Malgus was like, okay? I am bailing out? Because, like, I abandoned all my plans on creating the new empire. Now I serve this woman. She is my boss now. Wait, where am I supposed to go? I get lost really quickly. So, Spike on Tatooine. Holy, that's not the close flight. Who is paying for the fuel? Who's paying for the fuel? Tatooine. It's not close, but thanks to the extremely convenient space map. Wait, where did I just go? That's not Tatooine. Or is it? Wasn't even paying attention to that. Oh yeah, hello fleet. Was I going to the fleet? Now, okay, excuse me. So, oh, on the fleet, okay. I was looking at Competent Plague. Just like your typical daily and his awareness. Alright then, let's go speak to whoever it is we gotta speak. What's this? What's this? Oh.
Travel to the infected world is
Oh, the hell. Okay, I see. In addition to the wonderful expansion 6.0, there is also a constantly recycled event of Ragul Plague going on. Why am I even walking like a pleb when I have this wonderful sprint bird all to myself? So how many fleets we have? Holy crap, so many fleets. The game has not seen so many people since I don't know when. Okay, Lord Izar.
Perfect timing, Commander. Darth Krovos is just finishing up. Follow me.
Because that's obviously what Sith Lords do. He just idle on the fleet.
I can sense the strength in each and every one of you. The passion for victory. And the power to achieve it.
What?
At the muzzles of your blasters, at the points of your blades, our ancient enemies shall finally be destroyed. For the Empire!
Now, lady, calm down. Since when do Darths and pure-blood Sith at that give speeches to mere peasants supposed to be cannon fodder? Now, that's an uncommon approach among, you know, Imperial Force wielders. Okay, you were promoted.
Congratulations on joining the Dark Council.
Thank you. I hope to serve our empire as ably as you have.
Did not
They're all yours.
make you look any better, though. Now, imagine that. Just now you were given a speech by a Darth from a Dark Council, the most powerful being in the whole empire, and then a fucking bounty hunter comes in, who spent his whole life hunting contracts and just being affiliated with the utmost scum in the galaxy. Praise imperial traditions. I encourage reform and equality.
We are setting out to fight the same war we fought many times before. But the outcome will be different, because we are different. Like the most powerful predators, the Empire has grown, evolved, learned. We are not the same Empire our enemies faced in the past. No longer do we ignore the strength of those who aren't human or Sith. No longer do we ignore the wisdom of those without the Force. The Empire held itself back before, but no longer. Now, the Republic will face the true strength of the Empire. Now, they will face you.
Okay. I hope you shoot better than the stormtroopers, you know? Otherwise, you know, Republic won't be doing anything more than laughing.
An interesting speech, Commander. I'm not sure.
I am quite sure. It was a powerful speech, one all the Empire should have heard.
I appreciate your time, Commander. I look forward to working with you again someday soon.
Okay. Like, alright. Somewhat out of nowhere. But maybe. Alright, then what do I do next? Preparing the way. Okay. Let's do it. Let's play the onslaught. I guess that is the actual campaign. I'll shut up right now. Shut up. Let's listen to the story. No, wait, excuse me. Oh shit, why? No, that's not what I wanted. I was just waiting for the music, then I realized it was muted. Okay, we will not read what exactly happened. But does it matter? Where am I suddenly? I don't remember anything from last night. Empress, you look a little bit transparent. Maybe you should eat more. I can also see your eyeballs. I mean, okay, it's a holographic projection and everything, but like, do you have to project eyeballs like this? A little bit creepy. Anyways, Malgus, is it you? My old... not friend. Oh, okay, right. Now it actually starts. Alright. This Star Wars onslaught. War consumes the galaxy. Hungering for dominance, the ruthless Sith Empire fights to destroy their ancient enemies in the Galactic Republic. Assembling an overwhelming fleet of the Empire's most powerful warships, Darth Malgus sets out to obliterate a new and highly advanced Republic shipyard on the planet Corellia. Poor Corellia, I swear. So many hardships have fallen on that planet. Now, desperate to prevent this catastrophe, the Republic rushes to gather the forces necessary to defend this vital facility, one that could finally turn the tide of the war in their favor. I mean, if you followed the story of this game from the very beginning, you would wonder how the hell does any side still have any kind of resources and, will to fight. They should be so worn out, especially after being almost destroyed by Eternal Empire. Why do they still want to wage war? Well, okay, I kind of understand why Sif would want to do that. At the same time, it doesn't really go along to the idea of, reforms and not fighting them among each other. But they still want to go to war, even though their worlds were devastated.
Not today, scum. Escort 1 to Overlord. Spring the trap. We have you now. Target locked. They're running for their lives. This one is mine.
Wait, are you gonna make me play? No, I guess not.
Target destroyed.
Another kill and another step closer to victory. Let's regroup.
Commander.
Malgus.
Your assistance with the 38th Fleet's operations has been exemplary. But I am now recalling them for a special assignment. Empress Asina invites you to join a special meeting of the Dark Council aboard Viken Space Dock. We will discuss the details of the operation there. Few outside of the Sith have ever been invited to such a meeting. Such is our respect for your strength.
I'm glad I could help prove the value that non-Sith bring to the Empire.
You and those like you may yet teach the Empire the full strength that it possesses. We await your arrival. Malgus out.
I was about to say I can't wait to find out, but actually, not so much. I want to find out how the hell
A state-of-the-art Republic.
Malgus is still alive and what happened to him to serve the Empress.
My spies report that it can produce ships faster than any of our shipyards and at half the energy cost.
That hardly seems possible.
Based on the technical readouts Zarian has acquired, I assure you it is entirely possible. Perhaps it is even a conservative estimate.
Malgus, Krovos, your plan for destroying this facility?
By securing our frontline positions and withdrawing all but the most crucial warships, we have formed an assault armada of unrivaled size and power.
Under our command, this mighty fleet will burn the Republic's new shipyard to ash and destroy any hope of victory that might remain among their people.
And rest,
Is the shipyard your only target? Do you have plans for the rest of the planet?
We may pursue additional targets of opportunity, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. We have gathered enough fuel ships to carry our fleet to Corellia without stopping. Our enemies are in no such position. The Republic will scramble reinforcements from all corners of the galaxy.
Could you please stop with the fuel ships, I beg of you? What the hell is...
We have already identified one likely
What?
refueling point for the Republic ships. The planet Onderon.
Conveniently, I am already engaged in operations to undermine Republic control of that planet. However, my forces are meager, to say the least. But with the aid of the Alliance and its commander, I am confident that I can successfully delay any...
Just give them free condoms, they will be too busy to pay attention to any Imperials. The aid of the Alliance... Hope you're better than Melora.
Your predecessor wasn't the most focused ally. I hope you do better.
I'm confident that we'll work well together.
Excellent. Keep your spies in place, Zarian. We must know everything about the shipyard and its defenses. Anathel, Varon, be ready to provide any assistance that Malgus or Krovos should request. This operation is the Empire's top priority.
Understood.
My logistical networks are entirely at their disposal, Empress.
Then this meeting is complete.
Do I bow? Or do I not? Do I bow? Do I not? What is my choice over here? It's hard. It's hard to choose. I hate Sith, but, you know, she's the first woman to have ever ascended to be the leader of the Dark Council. Damn, this hard. No, I'm gonna stay true to my, to my rebellious self. I guess, judging by the stare, she didn't really like it. But who cares? I could probably just solo her if I wanted, right? At this point. My love, here you are.
Commander, fancy meeting you here.
Well, not yet, but
Are you joining the mission on Onderon?
she will be.
Nah, I pulled Darth Varon's operation.
Who doesn't like those thick
Two
Twi'leks?
Some mined out rock called Mekshar. But word is we might catch up groundside on Corellia.
I missed you.
I've missed you since Ossus. How have you been?
Same old, same old. Fly here, blow up that, sneak into this, kill everyone. You know the drill.
Ah, just how I like it.
Once you've fought with the best, everything else just seems a bit dull. Know what I mean?
Major Henry, I need to speak with the commander. Alone.
Of course, my lord. Please excuse me. Until next time, Commander.
It is the nature of Sith to seek their own advancement. Members of the Dark Council most of all. Victory on Corellia benefits us all. It advances us all. Should Lord Savik or any other council member forget their priorities in my absence, the Empress grants you leave to remind them.
Well, I can't say I don't like leaves. Even though I enjoy killing and, you know, mindlessly destroying a lot, but a leave to kill and destroy more. Empire has changed.
Sith did whatever they wanted.
And we lost. Not this time. Lord Savik awaits you. Farewell, Commander.
Well, but how...
Come in, Lana. Our objective is Onderon. Take everyone we can spare. You'll be briefed on arrival.
Understood. We'll depart for Onderon at once.
Alright, so, he said, back in the day, Sith did whatever they wanted. Until someone came in and killed them, right? How is this, any different? I don't know. You tell me. Anyways, just gonna pour myself a glass of wine. And let's get going with this story. Or should I just queue up for Mandalorian Raiders? And level up faster. XP! What is this green? Oh, I'm in a rested state. Okay. So, any new master flashpoints here? Objective Meridian recommended. Yeah, like why the hell not? Be it Mandalorian Raiders or Objective Meridian. Let's go ahead and try it out. Just need to respect, because probably healing an arsenal will not suffice for this. Oh, wait, no, what? That's actually Mandel Raiders. I guess I am not the only one with the idea of of leveling through dungeons. Okay, and here I thought it would be the new Flashpoint. Nevertheless, I still have enough time for all this. Just let me abandon this and then go for bodyguard. They've changed something to utility, and now I don't even remember. And now I don't even remember. What do I want this probably. Shit, that guy's dying. Wait a second, let me, holy crap. Wow. Just started, but it's already so stressful. Sweeping blasters, I don't even remember where the hell is healing scan. Goes here. Hold the shell is here, and, this thing goes here. And this thing goes here, okay.
This is the chieftain of Clan Varad. You've challenged the wrong ship.
Call to missile. Where is the C button? Oh yeah, that's here. In any case, who needs utilities, right? We'll figure out as we go. Doesn't really matter. You don't need utilities to heal dungeons. Oh yeah, okay. Now I see power shot should be here, and this I guess should be maybe. Alright, we're good. We're good to heal this. To heal this extremely complicated and hard dungeon. As I said before, I'm kinda expecting to run this at least 60 times today, because how else? Wait, when did I get so much XP? I am confused. My XP bar was here, right? And now I'm almost close to 71. Not that I'm complaining, really. Okay, now I remember my key buttons, right. It's like this. And unload is here, yeah, okay. That's how it's supposed to be. Well, now we're ready. Stop killing me. Weird, I pressed heals. I did not mean to die. Or pick up those credits. I haven't been here for a long while though. I'm fairly interested what happened to the experience though. Our level isn't bolstered. Actually, that's interesting. Did they do nothing to bolster? Although I'm not entirely sure whether bonuses actually give you a decent enough XP, so I just got like 2.6 per kill, and the target is 1 million. Well, it's okay, I guess. What the hell is wrong with mouse? Come on. Why are you doing this to me? It's not supposed to happen. And in fact, it wasn't happening yesterday. Is that something new with the game? I hope not. Anyways, yeah, just do all the bonuses, go quick, so everything dies. The only thing that matters right now is obviously XP. Well, of course, and to see the new content at least once. Something is odd. Something is odd with the mouse right now. It keeps slipping to the upside, and I don't like it. I prefer to know where my camera is. And yeah, I know I just used my reactive shield again as a scrub, but what can I do? My mouse wheel, to which it is bound. Oh, safe meditation right here. It's a force float ability. Yeah, my mouse wheel has its own ideas. No, doggies, leave me alone. Is the guy tanking him still? Okay, good. I don't want my repair droid to die. And yeah, actually, that's a very good question, right? No! I lost him. I lost my friend. He was like a repair droid to me. I loved him like a repair droid. Stop killing me, damn it. Ah! They're hating. They're really, really hating. So much that I am even forced to use whatever it's called, Chaff Flare, yeah. Anyways, we killed the first dog quite fast. Like, what happened with the second one? And yeah, if you are concerned about me being so casual about killing animals, well, those are bad dogs, trust me.
You're good, but you're not Mandalorian.
Satchel of crafting, okay, those are new things. Processed isotope stabilizer, I guess I'll just need everything, because why the hell wouldn't you do it? People are needing on things, and so should I. Everything looks so new and shiny, so why wouldn't I do that? Whenever you see shiny stuff, you just need it. They seriously should have just removed the need and greed button. For the first few weeks of the expansion, because, like, yeah, all these new drops, people have never seen them ever before, and just look at me. I think I need everything. Even if I don't, but I don't know at this point whether it is so. So, oh my, just look at that. Look. My emergency scan is bound to shift middle mouse button. And my shield is bound to shift mouse button, mouse wheel down, and it's just so freaking sensitive. I just can't find myself a perfect mouse that would just work to how I need it to. So what's happening? What's the new max level? 75! How come you do flashpoints in their new content? Well, flashpoints is way faster. It's always been. Doing flashpoints with a, well, somewhat efficient group. Why is that guy dying? Taunt the turret? Or hack it? Goodbye, sir. Well, that guy gets to exercise his legs. I want to level to 75 and then I will see the new content and stuff. Like, yeah. The goal for the stream is to level, not to, you know, complete content and stuff. I just need a few moments to, you know, orient myself in PvE again. I haven't been to flashpoints for quite a long while. Like, I'm almost level 71. Is it gonna be like this the whole time? I expected to spend at least a day leveling, but if it's if it's this rate, I might finish in just a few hours. But I guess we will see. Where's the fourth guy? Is he still running? Anyways, yeah, I kind of need some utilities, I guess, after this. Something is weird with the freaking mouse. It keeps jumping up and down. Let me turn my mouse pad over. Maybe that will help. Like, yeah, something is weird with the sensitivity, and it's not the mouse. Did they fix something, as they often do? Camera rotate speed? No, it's at 0%, as it's always been. Wow, what the hell? No, something... somehow, the mouse controls, the mouse speed is not the same as it was when I left the game this morning. What the hell happened? So we don't know if it's 75 or 80 yet. No, it's 75. What do you mean we don't? Of course we do. It's 75. They added 5 new levels, as they always do. There is no secret. Wow, did you see that? It was like 180 degrees Counter-Strike turn. No, I totally need to do something about the mouse. It's not cool. I don't like it suddenly making a U-turn on me. Well, everything's freaking disabled. Okay, let's try to lower. God, it's so... Nope, it didn't. Sensitivity didn't change at all. What the hell are you doing? I might die like this, and I will, gosh. Will my team survive, or are we going to wipe? Wow. Let's just pretend we didn't see Daily BP wiping in Mandalorian Raiders. Guess he didn't pop his adrenaline. Lin Rush. Not bad. No, like seriously, something is weird with the mouse. What happened? What happened with sensitivity? BioWare, explain! How the hell did you mess up sensitivity in the game? It's been fine, just this morning. I logged off. I was perfectly happy. and look at what's going on right now. Now, whatever, let's go. We just swiped in Mandalorian Raiders. Anything I can do here? Maybe. Well, the settings are as they've always been. Yeah, all the utility points are reset. I kind of wanna I don't know, let's take something like this. Oh my god! I can't turn my mouse! It keeps jumping! What the hell? What are you doing? Why? Yeah, all the utilities are reset. I want the damage reduction here, probably. What else do I want? Ability pushback. And it's activated. What else? I just don't remember the utilities by their icons at all, so... where is the cooldown on energy shield? It's probably in heroic, right? Well, in that case, let's use this for cleanse. Since I'm doing PvE and all that stuff. How's life going, mate? Nice. I'm so hot for whatever reason. Oh, probably.
Battle Team Royal, get in position. Cut
down
that scum.
Still though, the issue with the mouse is slightly unpleasant. I hope they fix it until PvP, cause like what? Am I the only one having this? I wonder. I hope not. Ah, leave me alone. Well, I've just realized the tank is actually not guarding or anything. So, yeah. Slightly makes my life harder. Not by much, but slightly. They fight with even greater focus. In case. I need to figure out what abilities do I want.
Peace treaty hasn't made you soft. This might be a decent fight after all.
I am confused though. Where the hell is as always, just need and everything. Oh yeah, okay, there it is. So, missile blast, roots, jet boost, rocket out, need this and maybe this, and then need this, energy shield reduced. Hydraulic overrides, let's take this. Then I want this. And this. No, not this and this. I want this. No, actually. Or do I? Do I? No. Well, I'm doing PvE right now, so that's it's good enough for me. Besides, I'm gonna get another point in 75, so then I can do the Kolto Surge. They changed it actually from PTS. Wasn't it like 3 points in skillful and 2 points in the rest? But they changed it, so you can now actually have pretty useful point combinations here. Ah, no, okay. Do you think I will die if I drop from here? I kinda lost half HP jumping from that platform. Wouldn't it be wonderful? Okay, first PvE run in a while is just not going all that smoothly. Do I have any stim? Wow, so much junk in my inventory. And is there a stim? Stim, is there? Is there a stim? Oh, there are already a bunch of 71s. And there is already a bunch of 72s. Holy crap, seriously, that's fast. 90 people are 72. I wanted to take them out. Wrong button. Wrong button, sir.
Your little adventure is about to end. Come on, I'm waiting.
Any 73 though? Anyone super fast? Wow, really? 27? 74? It's been less than 2 hours. Wait, what? 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 Are you serious? Why is there even a need to friggin' level? If it took people less than 2 hours to reach 75. Crazy shit. Already 6 people on the server. Is that some kind of bug? Like, seriously? So just by doing story, you leveled 75? Okay, I guess. I'm gonna try after this. But it's been less than 2 hours. Wait, what less than 2 hours? It hasn't even been an hour. I am confused. I would like to know, why do you even need to level if it happens in 40 minutes? You probably shouldn't stand in his AoE. interesting. Okay. I mean, like, that is entirely unexciting. Get some relic. I probably forgot some item before, right? Yeah. Who cares though?
You're worthy opponents, but this ship belongs to Clan Varad. Time for you to die. What's the matter? Getting tired? Ah!
Well, in here I thought that people would need some time to level up and it would be interesting and it wouldn't be so dumbed down, but I guess that's what the game has come to. Like, really? I don't know, that takes the all kind of remote excitement out of process. Really? Like, levels are there for show?
This hard in the war.
Ow. Maybe they did get a boost. It does. The whole fight does feel slightly different. Still though, it's been 40 minutes, people are level 75. I just can't believe it. Can't believe it. In my opinion, leveling is in a game for a reason. Not in Swatter though. Why add leveling then at all? Just make progression around the gear completely. Like all the new stuff. Make that the reward for doing story and your new content. Just kill the friggin' boss! Oh my god, he's still attacking the turret, please! I should have just stuck to the story. Also, is there any item that I forgot here? Yeah. There you are. It's another dirty relic of 252. Who cares about that? I am not interested in this whatsoever. Sorg didn't pay a lot of attention to, No, wait for me. There are also some new abilities. What kind of abilities, I wonder, do I have? Oh, Grobhut, which I can't reach now. Cute. Hey. Will it move together with the... I guess not. Well, I thought it would spawn on the platform, but instead, being the hologram, it decided to hover. Okay. Why in the world not? So anyways, what to say? Right now I can see a lot of the sync. People keep teleporting from place to place. There is some weird issues with experience. Was it supposed to be like this?
Getting tired?
Can we not kill me? I'm going to head to Twitter and ask Moscow.
Only you'd fought this hard in the war.
If people were supposed to level this fast, because it does not make any sense to me. I am so disappointed right now. Crazy. For the first time in a long while, people could progress in SWTOR with their characters. And this is what you do? Oh well, people don't like leveling, so we are adding 5 new levels, but it takes you roughly 30 minutes to get through them. What the shit? Yes, people already max level. It's been 40 minutes. Well, now it's been an hour since servers went up. This is like literally the biggest disappointment ever. Not really, but close to it, yeah. Oh yeah, the stats have also changed, so now I don't have alacrity anymore, right? I mean, obviously I do have alacrity, but I don't have same stats as before, because stat pools were changed. Like I have 39 crit instead of 48. Yeah, okay. Like, a lot of things have changed. Well, anyways. Tech fragments. Masterwork Ancient Quicksavant Package. Craft material. Well, I guess thank you guys for keeping me company here. How many more people are 75 now? It's already 22. In the first hour, people have gained what, 5 levels. That is the most terrible level in experience. Like, why 5 levels then? Well, I guess it's linked somehow to the internal workings of how the gear scales and what kind of what? Why can't I leave the group? Okay, just got changed, and I guess the connection between levels and internal maps as to what kind of damage you do. I don't know if that makes sense. It doesn't matter. Yes. Anyways, so what? Let's just go do story, I guess, then. And get to 75 as well. But anyways, I don't know. I'm gonna do the story, and that's probably gonna be it for Swatter. There are better games to play. Expansion, and you reach the end of expansion in about what, 1 hour? Nice. So what, am I going to Onderon? Let's go. Oh yeah, first I wanted to throw some stuff away from the inventory. Well, what to say? It is... Well, this looks great, right? But, like, in the end, who cares how great it looks if the experience of progressing through this content is just terribly scaled. In case, here I am on Onderon, and the mouse still slips in whatever direction it likes. Looks pretty cool so far. Can I disable my nameplate for the time being? Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. This way, it's a lot more pleasant. What a cute. Can I put my head in its mouth. Can I? I don't know. Just after seeing all these people suddenly reaching level 75 in less than an hour, I can't help but feel disappointed. Very disappointed. I felt like I would play the story, I would finish the story. I would be something like level 72.
The hunting lodge of King Petrith, the current ruler of the planet.
Onderon has been a Republic planet for centuries. Not that Petrith cares, he just wants to sell his planet's resources to anyone willing to pay.
Which is where the Empire comes in.
Exactly. Petrith's greed makes him an easy target for Savik to manipulate. But his nobles aren't playing along.
Petrith may have the throne, but the nobles have control of the capital city and day-to-day operations. If they learn of his imperial ties, he could be deposed.
What about the Republic fleet we're here to destroy?
Still gathering in orbit. They're preparing for refueling and resupply operations.
Savik doesn't have the resources to attack the fleet head-on, so we're pretty sure she's gonna trick Petrith into doing it for her.
Well, let's get started then, I guess. All right.
Let's find Savik and get started.
Of course. You'll find them just inside.
But before I go anywhere, you know what I have to do? I have to travel to my stronghold. Just wait there, okay, Lana? Theron, just wait a little bit while I run back to Nar Shaddaa quickly to sell off some stuff and clear my inventory, because it's pretty damn hard to play like this. What was here? Something disappeared. And I don't remember what it was. But I guess it wasn't anything important if I don't remember. Oh, it was all the crafting materials. Okay. I don't feel any more rich. Why can't they just sell the freaking crates? Couldn't you have given the crates monetary value? Especially since we already know that you convert everything to credits at the rate of 1 item to 5 credits. But in any case, I wonder how much does an augment cost now on well, they've got reworked shiny icons. I guess that's the biggest new thing in the whole. Well, they still cost millions. I guess it's not so bad if I wanted to sell them, but as always, I'm just too lazy for that. And I did not get anything because they converted Transubstantiated to 5 credits. Well, granted, you don't really need them anymore, but still, 5 credits? 5 credits. In any case, that's enough inventory space, right? Where is it? I didn't want to be opening any packs, so just get rid of them. Alright, this should be enough space for pretty much anything. I guess by the time I get to level 75, there will be like hundreds of people there. So anyways, that guy said that he's gotten to 75 in 3 seconds simply by doing story. Like, look, right now I got myself 50k experience, right? Yeah. But next level, I need 1,700,000. Oh yeah, and I'm a healer now. Whatever. Do it. Wait a second. Are you telling me that I had to walk to this room, watch a cutscene, only to be teleported back in the beginning and to walk to that room again? Interesting planning on this. I mean, couldn't they have left me in the same friggin' room? Couldn't they have played that cutscene at my landing on Onderon? King Petriv, hello.
Absent upon my return from the Senate, my king. Do you expect to visit the capital soon?
I will return when it suits me.
We have matters to discuss. When do you think it would suit you to return?
You overstep, Senator. It is your job to share my decisions with the Republic, not to question them. Do not bother me again!
Well,
the nobles' meddling was bad enough without Nibet to stir them up further. This is intolerable. Am I not king? Do I not rule this world?
They clearly don't respect your power, dear king. And to send this senator back here...
The guy is edgy.
Perhaps the Republic believes you need more supervision. But you need not concern yourself. I have brought a powerful ally to ensure nothing comes of your enemy's plans. Allow me to introduce the Alliance Commander.
I'm gonna mock the bastard.
It's already clear that you stand apart from the greatest and wisest rulers in the galaxy. A truly special king.
Ah, yes. Well, you're wise to see it so quickly. Welcome to my...
I knew it would work.
Nibet's provocations have utterly drained me. A hearty meal will aid in my recovery. Do enjoy your visit.
That's all? I thought we would, share a kiss and be best friends ever.
As you can see, the King Orbit eats from my hand. He is the key to our victory here. Onderon's capital is equipped with powerful defensive cannons that could easily destroy the Republic fleet in orbit. The cannons cannot be operated remotely, but if we spur the king into a civil war against his nobles, the distraction will suffice. We will infiltrate the capital amid the chaos of battle, seize control of the guns, and eradicate the Republic fleet before they even realize they're in danger.
Petrov is too stupid to be reliable. I doubt he can make this happen for us.
As long as we are here to guide him, he will do what's required. Petrov already suspects that his nobles are moving against him. We need to push that paranoia further.
I wonder how much time does she spend every freaking morning to put all that makeup, but does she never remove it, I wonder?
And assassinate the king. Fortunately, you will swoop in to defeat these deadly attackers just in time. You will save the king, earn his trust, and push him further from his nobles all at once.
Simple enough. When do they arrive?
If my calculations are accurate, the mercenaries will arrive any moment now. I'll be happy to guide you to them over the comm. Good luck.
Too bad it doesn't really tell you. Okay, it's Mandalorian Radius again. Why don't people go for the new flashpoint though? I have like 2 flashpoints selected. It's 50% chance, but twice in a row, I get Mandos. All right. The goal for this run though is to not let freaking wipes happen. Yeah, like, not only we're not bolstered, but what the hell happened to my HP pool? I had like 130k HP without the bolster. Why do I have 110 now? Veteran's Edge. Something's changed. Okay, first of all, there's no bolster anymore. Now, there is also something called Veteran's Edge. Did I get experience just by teleporting to this flashpoint or something? Because it totally feels that way. Probably not, but still. Oh, come on! Why does everybody focus on me? I know I am extremely handsome. And we've already established that whoever is handsome in the Star Wars galaxy, well, he dies pretty fast. No, seriously, comparing this to leveling in WoW Classic, which do you think is a way better experience? WoW Classic, hands down, with all its grindiness. But where gear actually matters, where whatever it is you do... Oh, actually, now bolster is in. I am bolstered down. Well, I guess it's not bolster. I'm level shifted to 70. Can't be more than 70 in those flashpoints, which is, I guess, fair. Each level kind of gives an advantage, even more than being a well-geared level 70 does. Ah! He's gonna die like this. He really is. Maybe not. Well, maybe this time I can keep my friend Republic medical droid alive. So wait a second, this tank doesn't really know that he needs to keep the boss away from the dogs? No, he does, okay, he does. I was being worried for a second there, but okay, listen. Listen, you seriously need to taunt the boss away. Who are these people? How come nobody knows how to beat Mandalorian friggin' raiders? I mean, I am bad, but I am not that bad. Ah! Well, okay, see, that's what I told you. I am bad. Well, basic, whatever you are about to die. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, man! No! Holy crap! Exciting. Never mind, we can do it. We can do it. It's not gonna be an issue at all. At least, if somebody ever asks me, boy, you were there at the launch of the Epic Swatter expansion. So did you have fun? I'll tell them that yeah, I had a lot of fun. I've seen more people wiping Mandalorian raiders in 1 hour than ever in my life. I am genuinely having fun. Yeah, okay, things are clumsy and they're not clean, but that's where the fun is. Nobody cares about friggin'... Is this the last expansion? Yeah, man, that is. The last expansion. And Swatter is not shutting down, at least not in the next couple of years, I imagine. Simply cause Swatter still makes money. So why would it shut down? On the back of the fans, Swatter survives. Feel like I need a stim. At least accurate stim. Not the best kind of stim you would want on a healer, but yeah. So, is bolster no longer a thing after level 70? What about PvP? What's gonna happen? In fact, after reading patch notes, there was nothing about, you know, bolster being adjusted for PvP at all. How does it work? How? I mean, I guess I have to get to level 75 to see, but... Man, you are dying. You are probably dead. Another guy died. What the fuck? Oh my lord. Okay, I will try to save this one. No? Did I say no wipes? I guess I was wrong. No, don't kill me. I'll come back. Can I kill this turret by myself, I wonder? Surprisingly, this thing doesn't do... doesn't heal me that much. It deals a lot of damage, but is the heal capped? I forgot. I can kill it 6%? No, wait a second. I'm just having fun at this point. I'm sorry for having fun. Oh my god, I'm gonna die! Yeah, well. At least, I am finding my fun over here. Yeah, you know, those fights do feel slightly different. Zhao Yu, goodbye. Okay, he bubbled. Then this guy is so dead. Use some defensive cooldowns. Cooldowns. Okay, he's safe. This is terrible. It is fun and terrible at the same time, or terrible and fun. Expansion! Swatter expansion! Look how polished it is. People go into Mando Riders to be surprised that they die to the friggin' turrets in 2 blows. That didn't happen before. Something got adjusted to make the game more entertaining. Oh my god. That's usual me. No. There's this. Yeah, and I take right back because I decided to spill my wine all over the... Well, it's mostly on the floor, you know. So... Not really on the ground. Ground, not really on the table. In any case. While I make my wife clean the mess I made... But it's not a big mess, there was like a few drops. Blah 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 blah. Luckily I do not hear what you are saying while I'm wearing my... Well, I can see that. No sex for you. Anymore, ever again.
Fine.
Matey, why are you using... But I wipe my face with it. Why would I... My wife is so lovely, I swear. Oh, you're wiping your face with a towel, huh? Well, how about I wipe the floor with it? Please continue wiping your face. Well, okay. To her defense, didn't really have any other kind of cloth to fix the mess I made. I gotta remember not to put the goddamn glass of wine right next to my right arm. Right arm. To my left arm is perfectly fine. But when it is to my right arm, it always gets knocked over. You are supposed to taunt the guy, maybe? I believe I also needed repair. I haven't seen a yellow indicator of my armor breaking down for I don't know how long. Somebody flew off from what I saw. Ah, wait a second, I'm dying, what the hell? What just happened? Why did the guy fly down? I mean, I am getting a ton of incredible footage here. I just couldn't hold myself. The droids. Can I retreat? Retreat? They're following me. I can't help but ask, even if it costs me my life. Yeah, can we get quick? Get in this lift. We're running away. GFD? I am. Who needs fucking new flashpoints when you have this? How am I in space suddenly? Indeed, PvE leads to some crazy shit, just like you said. Okay, we're kind of one here. Alright. The situation is under control from what I can see. Still though, I wonder how many 75s are there right now. 75. There are already 86 people. It's been 1.5 hours. In 40 minutes there were 9. It is insane. Anyways, yeah. Some crazy stuff has happened. In both this and the previous runs. So, you gonna go? Oh, wait a second. British Parliament has just approved some... What do you mean offline? I'm not offline. Just approved some Brexit deal. What the hell is happening? Or Brexit law. Are you coming? I gotta read this. Says it's at least a challenge. The problem is it's kind of a way unbalanced challenge. Some mobs do normal damage, other mobs do insane damage. Like I don't know where the challenge is. But it does feel a little bit like take that battle with 2 droids. It wasn't really a challenge, you just positioned yourself in a funny manner, and that's how we ended up almost dying. But you know, I never back down from a challenge, although this here is not it. Oh, I have a cookie. Well, I mean, yeah, like I said, 40 minutes after service went up, there were already 8 friggin' 75s on the server. 8! Oh, that guy is dying. So yeah, how do you get new tactical items? Yeah, you gotta do
made you soft.
You gotta do content.
Be a decent fight after all.
That's how you get him. By doing content, you get those tac fragments. Most of the tactical items and set bonuses can be bought on Fleet for tac fragments. But some of them can be obtained from specific places, like on-the-run reputation shit. So obviously you also have to grind like on-the-run reputation if you want certain items. I didn't remember how many stages there are to the bonus boss, but I think we didn't kill enough stuff. But anyways, yeah, basically you need to do any kind of content with the biggest chances of getting best items from the operations, obviously. And if you can't get a drop, you can buy them with tech fragments. You are guaranteed to get from anything, pretty much. Are they just like another gear piece? Yeah, they are. No, those lightsiders burning with fire. Basically, you have this tactical thing over here. You just equip the tactical you want, and it changes one of your abilities to work differently. My God, what happened to the mouse? BioWare! Is it really so hard to release something without breaking something else? Like seriously, this is the story of this game. Every freaking patch, something that has been working well breaks. Or had been working well to the point of, you know, an update. Oh yeah, there is actually bonus boss, I guess I was wrong. Too bad I can't just, you know, push him down into the space. Jill is a cool guy. I don't understand why does he have to die. They're gonna die if they don't step back. Yeah, they did. They did change it. Cause oh my freaking God, really? Man, just step away from him. Ah, my you kidding me? And those guys aren't doing enough damage to the guy. My defense is I did start to move away. Did it help me? Nope. Can't believe that shit hurt so much now. Well. Kinda does. Was mostly my mistake though. Turns out PvE is not so easy. Especially when the expansion's just being released. Jill, how are you doing? Just chilling there. I'm sorry, we have to kill you again. It's okay, you can stand. If you're a real tank, it's okay to stand and you spin. But at the same time, nothing wrong with the, like, you know, blitzing out of it either. As long as the boss follows you. Hey. Ah, no! Get him off. Don't you think running through his AoE is, you know, not exactly a beneficial thing? Thank you, my mate. The gear tooltips are so small now. Like, it's really you really have to focus to read whatever is written on them. They were larger before, right? Yeah, it was easier to read. Like now there's more stuff on it, and there are more colors, but well. Come on. Aren't you going to see somebody? I'll just concuss. Oh, I can't concuss? The turret? Where has the world come to? Exactly, right? Poor Jill. He was just hanging out, just doing something on his hand computer. Like 4 random people out of nowhere start shooting rockets and blasters and everything. Oh, wow. Pretty terrible to be jumped like that. So at this boss, attack only turrets? Wow, seriously, after like, what, 10 years? People still need to discuss freaking tactics. Well, okay, not 10 years, it's only been 7. Mandalorian raiders have existed since, like, the beginning of times. And people are still like, well, you know, attack turrets. And I'm like, yeah, of course. I would attack the turrets, but I am the healer here. Wow, attack the turrets and they killed the boss. I mean, they said attack the turrets. Oh my god. I mean, last time I had so much fun in PvE was when I played on the Bastion back in the day, when Bastion was still a thing. Okay, on this boss, attack only turrets. Then the first thing you see is boss jump in and activating the next set. Why not? Why not? PvE in this game, it is not. Oh, something broke. My braces are very red braces. Maybe we have to hide behind then. You have to not attack boss when he activates turrets. Okay. Okay. I mean, looking at the way I write, something is starting to give away that you know, I'm taking alcohol here. If he jumps to the next platform, we're screwed. Means you've been hitting the boss. Yes. Before we kill the first set of turrets means we're fucked. Yeah. Pretty much as the guy says. Now I have my braces broken. You know, I've been playing WoW Classic for the past 2 months, and
But this ship belongs to Clan Varad. Time for you to die.
I saw my gear break many times. I really did. But in Star Wars The Old Republic, I have not seen my gear break for about 9 years. I don't even understand what it does. What happens when your gear breaks in this game? He just use his stacks. Well, I didn't mind. They're really doing a lot of damage. Way more damage than I remember. Like, really? They have updated their damage or something? Whatever happened to Mando Raiders? It's gotten slightly harder, I guess, because something changed with the expansion, but still. This game is getting more and more unbalanced. I'm going to play Lost Ark starting 27th, and there's also the Outer Worlds coming out on when, 25th? That is going to be an adventure.
If only you'd fought this hard in the war.
We're fighting this hard right now. And Mandalorian wars are history now. Does not matter. I swear, this is easily the worst expansion to date. I mean, obviously I missed like, what, 5 years out of this game, but I can't believe there would have been anything worse than such a raw friggin' expansion. Clearly, things are not really balanced at all. Never before in my life, and I like what, survived Rise of the Hutt Cartel, like what, Knights of the whatever, Fallen Empire, and something else, whatever its name was. Never before I felt so awkward playing an expansion. Awkward XP progression. Awkward changes to the mob damage. Like, what the hell? If there are changes, they have to happen for a reason, right? It's not rocket science. If you're making changes, there has to be a reason behind them. And that reason has to make sense. So if you've increased the, you know, level cap. And with the level cap, obviously everything else has to go up to keep up with the, you know, the power player characters get. Mob damage, mob survivability, all the content. But it has to go up logically. And what happens here is, before Mandalorian Raiders had certain difficulty, obviously. I'm just gonna eat on everything because I seriously don't care. I'm trying to close this window. It has to happen logically, right? at least you would expect that the difficulty level would remain about the same as you had it when before the expansion, right? But you come back to the game that has just deployed expansion with the new contents and everything, and you go into the old content, and suddenly parts of that content are extremely out of balance. Like, obviously I can only judge from Mandalorian Raiders right now, but parts of the Mandalorian Raiders were exactly the same as I remember them. There was nothing weird about that, but other parts, like turrets for example, they were extremely out of control. They simply killed anybody who went against them in about like one hit. Why suddenly there's like nothing? Did something change? Why is there no more Mandalorian Raiders in Activity Finder? Am I... what? Like, yeah, Mandal Raiders disappeared. Why? I am confused. Can you only run a flashpoint twice a day? In any case, I need to visit my stronghold just for the sake of any new utility or ability. Yeah, well, like every class gets a new ability. No new utilities though. Casper, what do you mean? Yeah, you're definitely back here. Okay, so we got 200 for completing. How many people now? Oh yeah, I wanted to repair. For whatever reason, nobody speaks in the guild. Am I even in the guild? Did people kick me out? No, there are like a lot of people on. Nobody's talking though. It's odd. There are like what, 68 instances of Onderon right now. In any case, the reason I came here is to possibly reset the problem with this. Yeah, okay, now Mandalorian Raiders are back. So we can exit to reload something if it's bugged. Talking about quests. Well then, back to Onderon while waiting for the next dungeon and whatever it is. But yeah, those two Mandalorian Raiders attempts were pretty silly, but at the same time they were funny for all the screw-ups that happened. Anyways, time for me to eat something. What's happening?
Assassins. They'll never reach my safe room. Eliminate them.
What? What the hell? Oh, wait a second, I'm a heal right now. Well, goddammit, how do I kill anything if I am a healer? I probably need a companion. Ah, another assassin. Stop, stop. All I want to do is get some help. How do you attack things here? Gosh, they actually hurt. Alright, so, wait a sec. I need something like trick. And I need you to do what? Exactly, I need you to DPS. I know you understand me. Damage, do damage, okay. Together we can take anybody down. Wow, she seriously just wrecked him in one blow. DPS companions are good, suddenly. I don't remember DPS companions like killing silvers in one hit. Well, almost one hit, but close to it. Is that something new with the expansion as well? Assassins!
I can hear them outside the safe room. Save me!
Allow us to assist you, my king.
Allow us to assist you, my king? Well, you're not my king. All the same to me if you die. I'll just level as a heal, who cares? Respec it every time, too much hassle.
The assassins have control of the throne room. Find the security station.
I don't want to. Why should I do it? Why do I have to adapt, goddammit? And why does security station have to be like miles away from the room with controls? Security station in a random corridor.
One moment. There is a backup terminal nearby. Disable it.
What? Why does this palace have to be a maze? Usually things are pretty straightforward. Like, what? I can't go in? I can hear someone fighting behind the door?
King Petrus, we are en route to the throne room now.
Why do you say we when you are not present in here? As always, it's just me doing all the work. Can't you open the door so I could pass? That would have been a nice shortcut, but I guess not. Trick is indeed awesome. I wholeheartedly agree. The weirdest and funniest character in the whole game. There is nobody in the throne room! What's happening? How is it possible? I expected to find the king here. Are you the king? Guess not. Hello, how's it going? Where's the king? Tell me.
We were deceived from the start, but how? Why?
I don't have any idea. What are you talking about? Because I need to eat. So wait there for a second, okay? Just die.
I take it the Ridless assassins have been dealt with. Now that the area has been secured, we can exit the safe room.
So wait a second, nobody's doing anything anymore? No tanks? Come on. I wouldn't another Mando Raiders right now.
This is an outrage! They think they can kill me? Me! I am the king of Onderon!
Yes.
Once they realized your strength, Nibet and her Republic they could no longer hope to control you. Killing you was their only option.
But I'm the king!
Yes. I have deployed my droids to defend the premises. I assure you that you're now quite safe.
Good, good, excellent. Well done, yes.
My king, what of your cousins? They're still at the ancient proving grounds.
And? What do they have to do with any of this?
It's possible they're in danger too, good king. If your enemies are attacking you, they could also target your family. But the commander who valiantly saved your life can certainly rescue your cousins as well.
Your enemies are clearly ruthless. It may already be too late, but I'll do what I can.
Inconceivable! They have royal blood! I can't believe this. My blaster! I need my blaster! Oh, where did I put it?
His gullibility exceeds even my greatest estimates. We have given him fear. Now, we must give him anger. Find the king's cousins at the ancient proving ground. Kill them. Then spread evidence that Nibet is to blame. Petrif will demand retribution, and we'll have our diversion.
We should take them prisoner instead of killing them. They might be useful later, and Petrif won't know the difference.
They're even duller than the king. I doubt the effort is worthy of the gain, but the Onderon wilds are treacherous. You should take a guide with knowledge of the terrain. Speed is crucial. The Republic fleet is about to begin refueling, but my plan is unfolding.
Okay, but before I keep on going, we doing this Heart of Ruin thing. 1 million XP? Or what? What the fuck? What's wrong with the leveling progress in this game? 1 million? I see now how people leveled up. Why the hell are we here? Not that I care. Whatever. Let's do the Colossal Monolith. Isn't that supposed to be a hole? Why can't I stand in it? Whatever. Share weekly, please. Yeah, share weekly, please. I am confused as to how this freaking expansion progresses. It is not supposed to be like this. That's not the progression I signed up for. Probably shouldn't stand in this. Or does it not matter? The guy died instantly. Okay. Seems like it's going well. Some guy was like, okay, I'm bailing out. What? Who said what? People are getting out of here. Am I the group leader? Yeah. That was a nice attempt. Shouldn't this guy be easy? Well, I guess not today. Back to the story. Considering that you get million experience for completing a freaking 5-minute long quest, who the hell even planned it like this? Pretty damn insane. Mandalorian Raiders again. Why can't we do the new Flashpoint? One would think that people would want to do the new Flashpoint. But for whatever reason, they just don't.
This is the chieftain of Clan Varad. Whoever you are, you've challenged the wrong ship.
I wonder if we get to wipe this time. That's like my third attempt. Is it going to be as funny as the last two were? Well, so far so good. First packs of mobs defeated. When do you start getting stacks of Veteran's Edge? I guess it's 75. But if it is at 75, why do you show me that thing at 70? There is no reason to. That's not how user experience works. If it is useless for me, for another like 3 levels, it should not be there. It's simple as that. You do not show things that are not useful. I've seen this before. But nobody died here before. Maybe this is the first time it happens. Maybe not, though. When I eat, could you not rush so fast? I know you want experience and you want to go quickly, but I'm also hungry. Wow, though! Those guys actually know what to do. Or at least it feels that way. Where are you? Or like right here, then why can't it target you? Leave me alone. Can you attack the same target? It usually helps. I'm sorry, man. I'm trying to, but it's not easy. Being getting pushed around and all. So many bullies. Ah! Holy crap. Wait a second. Come on, kill something already. Laser definitely cares, I agree. It's the most caring character here on this whole stream. Do you? I heard you say that so many times, but you lose every time I step my foot on this shit. God fucking damn. Like, it's hard not to swear with this mouse behavior, with the expansion. They really did some good job on mouse input. Super dangerous turrets. Well, from what I can see, all you gotta do is have enough damage to kill them fast, or CC to control one of them. No problems. Do they not patrol anymore? I thought they do. Or is it just my imagination? No, I remember those two droids patrolled the area, but now all the time they just like stand in one single spot. Why did he die in like one hit? Well, sometimes people do die in one hit here.
Nothing new.
Wow! I'm sorry, mate.
At least that idiotic peace treaty hasn't made you soft. This might be a decent fight after all.
I want to go down with comfort.
What the? How scared did you? What is Kale from? Then did you scare?
I'm sure neighbors also having fun right now. Not just you.
Wow.
Kill them all.
Your little adventure is about to end. Come on, I'm waiting for you.
Wow, why the hell did he pay me attention this time? I didn't get it. But at least they made things more interesting. Thing is, will I die or will I not? I would prefer not to. Well, I mean, it's time for Jill again. Just press the button. Probably standing in his AoE is not the greatest idea, but what would I know? Anyways, yeah, you know, dungeon leveling compared to the million experience I got from just completing that random quest of the story is pretty damn slow. So I guess I'll just stick to the story and level in a few minutes. Clearly there's nothing better than just doing story quests to get 75. Which is pretty damn sad. Pretty damn sad. Sad, in case you didn't hear me clearly the first time. Because I don't know, I expected there would be some progression. It would take some time, but no. Nothing like that in this game anymore. It's terrible. It's just all about a couple of nightmare mode operations. Like, I would even say only one nightmare mode operation that is like gods. That's all this game is. Nightmare gods of the machine. Are you full?
No. No. What's happening? No. No. Because I said so. No. No.
You're worthy opponents, but this ship belongs to Clan Varad. Time for you to die.
Can I heal in the first person mode? Wee, so exciting.
Getting tired?
Would be a little bit too early for us to get tired, sir. It's only been like a few seconds. God, I can't help but zoom out. Something about my fingers just doesn't let me play in first person mode. Wow, he got blown up. It really did. No, don't die, no. What do I do to keep him alive?
If only you'd fought this hard in the war.
If only. What the what, how? He just took like 100% in about 2 seconds. Oh, wait, well, anyway, yeah, for some reason. They keep attacking the boss! I guess there will not be a single Mandalorian Raiders today without a wipe, because suddenly, as soon as a new expansion is released, old content becomes, like, you know, increasingly hard. What? Do I have to kill Turret first? What are you talking about? But the boss is so attractive. Well, those guys are right. Don't touch boss while the turrets are up there. Well, at least one of the guys is right. But someone doesn't know that. I mean, come on, Mandalorian Raiders is one of the freaking classic flashpoints. Everyone knows how to complete, even my grandma knows how to complete Mandalorian Raiders. What's happening? Hello! Oh, the Gauss is not plural. Why are you not banned? I'm sorry, the Gauss. I have to tell you that you know, from 2 months ago, I decided to review my policy on who is welcome on this stream, and you are not. So whenever you decide to say something remotely offensive to me, you are out. So keep that in mind. 10 million accounts will not help you. And with that in mind, hello friend, how are you doing? Of course I'm cute, I know that. And I intend on being cute for the rest of my life, which I hope is long. I'll probably outlive you. What does knowing that make you feel? Imagine that. I will still be alive when you are gone.
fought this hard in the war.
Oh my god, they attacked the guy again. What the hell? Ha! Well... Anybody has combat res? Mine is 15 seconds away. I'm dying. Sheesh. Leave me alone. Ah, I can see him. Somebody taunts the turret. Taunt the turrets off me. Would be so nice if you did. Mandal Raider, so hard, so hard. No. Tanky tank, don't die. I still need you alive. It's okay if I take a little bit of damage. It's just okay. Anything for the benefit of my team. I'm also kinda overheated here. That's not a good sign. Anyways, I am sad to announce it, but this game just gets worse. Patch by patch. Couldn't they have left the things as they were? Did they really have to release this update? They could have just released the operation and the flashpoint and the story mode without having to increase level cap. Neither did new equipment really call for it. Okay, so what's it been? Almost 3 hours. I managed to beat Mandalorian Raiders 3 times and wipe like what, 5 times here? That's more than I had in the past like what, 7 years. Wow, 272. What the hell is that? Anyway, what does it do? Alacrity. Increases mastery while under the effects of a steam pack. Yeah, sure, I need it. Why not? I need everything. Some fancy chest guard has dropped. And am I level 73? Almost. I am very close. Who won that shit though? I didn't even see. Oh, I got no. That's actually something else completely. Somebody won it, but not me. So sad about it. So sad. Anyways, I'm just gonna finish the story here, I guess. Or maybe I should play the new Flashpoint. Played 2 hours and just subbed. Well, I kind of understand your feelings right now. I am not entirely entirely happy about all of this either. Well, I have to run into this freaking room again. This game is trolling me. Seriously, it's trolling me. This room in front of me seems to be really popular with the people who made this expansion. Because when I landed on the freaking Onderon, I had to run into this room, only to be teleported back to the entrance to run into this room, and then afterwards I had to run to another room, and now I have to run back to this room. How many times will I have to come back? Let's catch up.
What have you been doing since Yavin?
Working for a succession of idiots and cheapskates.
I shall leave you in their capable hands, Commander. Good luck.
Hands.
Them jokes. Okay, so.
We just need to pick up a few questionably legal items to ensure all goes to plan. Luckily, we've made exactly the right friends here. Right, Chikaro? The delivery should be waiting for us.
Why do I have to do it personally? Couldn't you have done it without me? I mean, seriously, I am as important of a man as to decide the fate of a galaxy, of the galaxy. And then suddenly, you can't pick up smuggled shit without me? I mean, you obviously expect, you know, some trouble to break out, but... Holy crap, so many emails already. Imperial loyalties. I don't even want to read it, I'll read it later. Although I do want to know... Oh, yeah, that's from the Aussies. Anyways, anything interesting around here? Reputation vendor. What can we get from Oh my freaking god, seriously? That's not cheap, I must say. What's with those yellow things? So those are some of the set bonuses? Or rather, like one set bonus and a tactical item and another tactical item that can be that have to be bought with sufficient reputation and credits. There is another vendor.
What can I get for you?
This one for decorations is always okay. One thing to say that the planets look gorgeous as always, but behind the looks is something extremely shallow. Anyway, so where do I pick up things? What do I need to do here? Collect the blaster replica. If it's a blaster replica, why is it questionably legal? Ah, okay. I see you.
These blasters were modified to look just like the nobilities, house insignias and all. Rather
okay. There's some more quests, but I don't care. I'm just gonna focus on the story and see where it gets me. I am almost 73. Yay! I reached 75 and let the grind begin. Where is whatever it is? Counterfeit ID crests. Crests.
Do these ID crests look a little flimsy to you? Well, at least Petrov is the only person they have to fool. Now for the data pads. Our slicer friend promised they'll be full of authentic personal correspondences. You pay for quality, Chikaro, and I had a good feeling about him. I'm an excellent judge of character.
Okay. If you say so, man. You're just a droid hand.
To the proving grounds. All we have to do is cross a wilderness full of horrific, bloodthirsty beasts.
Why am I not using my mount
of course.
So fast? Instead, I choose to just run around.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but the king had a request he wished me to relay. If you...
My oasis is overrun by lizards. The jailer didn't warn me they'd reproduce like mad, and they're pushing out my favorite marks. They're ruining my hunts. Kill them!
Yes, of course, my king. I'm certain our associate will be pleased to help you.
Wait, what? Greta? Oh, it's Grefna. I'm sorry, I just keep seeing Gretas everywhere. So, how do we do this? Do I need to go inside? Doesn't look like it, though. Let me just, run past those horrific monsters, who are definitely not trying to eat me at all. All I want to do is travel to the Proving Grounds, yes. The king was yapping something on my intercom, but I didn't care. I am not entirely in a bloodthirsty mood, so probably not gonna be killing in excess of what I need to kill. But yeah, the place is so goddamn nice. Like, if anything, BioWare knows how to make an outdated game look well. If only they could also make it work well, that would be wonderful.
You're nearing the Proving Grounds. Plant the evidence we procured. Make sure it's easily visible.
Wouldn't it be suspicious if it's easily visible?
Is that better?
Oh yeah, I am a freaking... Jakara, why are you a heel? Ah, my freaking lord. I need you not to be a heel. So Jakaro boy, please go DPS. It is so freaking unfortunate when your level 50 companion gets replaced for the sake of story, and I don't even understand why. Like, who cares about Jakaro at this point? I just, you know, want to kill things fast. If I can. Is today your first day streaming again? No, yeah, I streamed yesterday. But, yeah, I guess you could say so. It's my first day. Greta, hello. Also looks like Greta, kinda. Wow, that guy is bloodthirsty. For some reason, he's killing innocent animals. In any case, I don't care about grind.
Now, find and sever the local comm-up link so no one can call for help. Once you're done dealing with Petrev's cousins, return to me.
And, how do I... Well, it shows me it's right here. Scan for the comm link. How the hell do I scan? Fuel reserves. Okay, there's some... If they cost 0 credits, why do I need to train this thing? Like, this is the weirdest thing ever. There is a passive ability that costs 0 credits, but it has to be trained at a fucking trainer. Well, I imagine it costs some money for the non-subs. But it's simply ridiculous. It is meaningless for me as a... Just give me as a passive then. Automatically, with a level up. Whatever. It's a small thing, but there are plenty of those kinds of small things that are extremely weird. So yeah, there's 0 credit ability that has to be trained as a trainer. Simply because, yeah. The point of that is... Nobody knows. In any case, mission items, any way to scan? How do I scan? What do you even mean, scan? How? What? locate the nearby comm uplink, which is like where? It shows me I'm right here. Am I being silly? Or should I go inside? No, it's a phase, and I can't go inside the phase. Okay, that guy totally scanned with something. Anything in my inventory? I'm just gonna slap these things. Wait, they're actually bind on equip. Unexpected. In any case, there's some amplifiers or whatever it is. Successful investigation. 20,000 credits for a recalibrate. Potential amplifiers. Okay, let's try recalibrating something. Successful scavenging. Who the hell cares? Mount speed, successful slicing. Am I really spending money on this right now? Repair cost, successful bioanalysis. Successful slicing. Durable equipment. Critical, successful mission. I don't give a shit. Give me something useful. Is that all I can get? Can I get something useful? Is it all about fucking missions? Excuse me? Is there something I can get? That would benefit my fighting capabilities? I guess not. Frequent flyer. Well, maybe 1% mount speed. Starship booty. Or maybe Steam longevity. What the hell is this shit? Well, I imagine crafters might need it. I don't have bioanalysis, sadly. A quick way to spend your credits. The game has introduced it. They choose Team Longevity, yeah, well. Anything else? Oral resistance. Reduces the damage taken from attacks that affect an area. What else do we have? Alpha Strike. Increases damage done X seconds after entering combat. Whatever, let's see. Oral Command. Increases damage dealt by attack by 1%. Should I? Does it affect fusion missile, I wonder though? Let's go for tech attacks. Anyways, back to the matter at hand. Where the hell is this comm? Shows it's right here. I have to scan something with something. Question is, how in the world do I do that? Ow. So how good is it? Oh, I don't know. I feel it's pretty bad. The story itself is alright, I guess. But Swatter is not really about the story, you know? Don't you use micro binoculars? Well, I don't have micro binoculars. I mean, it can't be that you have to buy that you have to have a random item that you might not have to progress with this friggin' quest. Can't be, right? Well, at least it should tell me that I need it. There are no mission items. What if I reset this? Oh my god, I shouldn't have done it, right? I have to run back now. Okay, let's take a quick trip back. Pretty weird though. The planet itself is gorgeous. Everything else is questionable. Also, flashpoint selections for whatever reason get reset. Like this master flashpoint gets deselected every time. Well, this is the new one. I have not seen it. I am expecting it to be exciting for a change. Okay, I'm landed somewhere, some guys are standing here talking, they look like Sith Lords, or whatever. I've got some Atoma cuties! No. Right here? A lot of instances of this one. Like, a lot of them. 7C. Well, in any case, let me put on my healing gear. It's okay if he's not coming. Jakaro will do his job. Level 1 Jakaro will help us beat his flashpoint.
Enemy artillery incoming!
Feeling a bit better now?
Not really. The Russian decided to abandon his countrymate, which is me, obviously. So wait a second, I'm confused. In my previous gear, I had like 110 hit points.
Push up! We need to get off this beach. We're sitting Banthus out here.
And already I have 170? I am confused as to how all this works. Like, really, I don't get it. Seriously, in Mando Raiders right now? Mando Raiders right now I had 1100,000. I swapped 2 gear pieces? Well, yeah, okay, granted, in Mando Raiders I was being scaled down to 70, but what does that actually matter? But I swapped 2 gear pieces and now I'm at 1700. Is that really how it's supposed to be? Is there any kind of logic to progression? I would not be, you know... I would not be in any way upset if I found out how it actually works. No other candidates to replace the Russian guy who left? Come on. I don't think, or can we? Probably can.
Approaching the main Republic defensive line. Be prepared for heavy resistance.
Nope, not this time, I guess. Well, I don't really know, man, about that. You know that Drew Karpyshyn came back to work on the game and writing, and Drew Karpyshyn is obviously known for the book Revan and, you know, original Mass Effect story, as well as half of the Mass Effect 2 and most of the Old Republic story as well. At some point he came back to work on the game and he made things possible. I don't really know which part exactly he wrote, but I would imagine that Knights of the Fallen Empire is part his job, so the characters we have today. But yeah,